The sea, as beautiful as it is equally terrifying. One day, in the midst of the open sea, a dreadful storm arises. And in the midst of that terrifying storm, two individuals get stranded. No, this is not a fictional event, it's a true story. In 1983, in reality, this merciless incident occurred. A girl's dream was to exploring the world by sea, but the deadly obstacle that will come to fulfill his dream was beyond his imagination. Hello friends, you are watching Unique Storytellers, and today's story is Adrift. The movie begins and we can see a girl stranded in the middle of the sea in a boat. Observing her surroundings, it's evident that she has encountered a significant problem. But what has happened to her? In the vastness of the open sea, everything around her is desolate. Water is seeping into the boat, even the hull has been punctured. The girl, like a madwoman, searches for her companion in every direction and cries out. Inside the boat, she is unable to communicate with anyone through the radio signals. At such a time, her eyes close. The story then takes us 5 months before the current event. Main character of our story is Tami Oldham. She is from California. She is deeply drawn to the sea, her heart resonates with the rhythm of the waves, and her ultimate aspiration is to embark on a journey across the vast ocean, a desire that engulfs her entire life. One day, fate leads her towards the enchanting horizon of Tahiti. Tahiti is a tranquil oceanic island, a haven of beauty, and this island becomes the canvas for Tami's maritime dreams. Then, one day she encounters Richard. Gradually, admiration transforms into love. Tami learns that Richard has sailed many places with his self-made boat. Upon hearing this, her interest in Richard grows even more. Tami learns from Richard that sea voyages are quite challenging, has to endure intense fatigue and constant hunger. Besides, they face various kinds of problems. Sometimes it's a maritime storm, other it's diverse marine creatures in the middle of the sea. Despite these challenges, the captivating environment of the sea, with its unimaginable and enchanting scenes, mesmerizes people. And this is the main reason why people love the sea. Even though Tami goes to the sea, she had never gone deep into the ocean or the open sea. Nevertheless, she is very intrigued by these stories. In Richard's proposal, Tami and Richard together immerse themselves in exploring the sea. In this way, they spend days joyfully wandering in various places within the sea. Later, one day they receive a job offer. Richard is informed that they need to take a boat from California to Hazana, and in exchange, they will be paid $10,000. Richard wishes to take Tami with him on this journey. However, Tami initially hesitates as she needs to attend to some family matters. Eventually, she agrees, and together they set out on their journey with the shared goal of reaching their destination. Enjoying their sea voyage with great pleasure, the two of them share moments of joy. One day, in the middle of the sea, Richard proposes to Tami by personally crafting a unique engagement ring. Tami cherishes the most beautiful moment of her life with Richard. One day, they notice that a bird has flown into their boat, but, at that time, their boat was in deep water. There were no signs of land nearby. How did a bird manage to fly into their boat from such a distance? The incident doesn't seem natural. They ponder over this matter, and can speculate that perhaps there is a very strong wind blowing around them, or a storm has arisen in the sea. As a result, the bird might have been carried by the wind and landed in their boat. At such a time, Richard learns from the weather department that they are in an area where a massive destructive storm is approaching. The storm is so terrifying that it is capable of causing widespread devastation. Richard informs Tami that they are facing a grave danger ahead. In a matter of moments, this storm will begin to inflict significant damage upon them. At that moment, they decide that to survive the storm, they will change the direction of their boat so that they can move away from the path of the approaching tempest. However, even before they could alter their route, they find themselves facing the menacing storm. The powerful winds from the storm leave them with no choice but to confront it head-on. Within moments, the sky rapidly plunged into darkness. Due to the sea storm, their boat was repeatedly tossed in various directions, and Richard and Tami make every effort to secure themselves from the fury of the storm. But the day when misfortune is on the forehead, it has to suffer. The massive waves of the sea crashed upon them from above. They couldn't have imagined that the beautiful and enchanting sea they once admired could unleash such havoc. Due to the mountainous waves of the sea, their boat was tossed in every direction like a leaf in the wind. At such a time, not finding any other solution, Richard instructs Tami to go inside the boat. Initially, Tami hesitates to go there. However, she then follows Richard's advice, goes below deck, and just at that moment, a massive wave from the sea flips their boat completely, and Richard suffers a blow to the head, and he is sunk into the deep depths of the sea. Then the events unfold in the present time, in the first scene of the movie where Tami was seen alone in the boat. Due to continuous efforts and physical exhaustion throughout the night, she had fallen asleep. After waking up from sleep, she sees something a little distance away, and it was another small boat tethered alongside their boat. Seeing this, Tami seems to regain her spirits. She attempts to start her boat to reach the small boat, because she believes her partner Richard is inside that small boat. As her boat does not start, she tries to get there by swimming, simultaneously, her boat also beginning to move in the opposite direction. Tami realizes there's nothing more she can do. If she goes towards the small boat, she won't be able to reach there, and in time, due to the lack of time, even big one will drift much farther away. So, instead of heading towards the small boat, she returns to her own boat and attempts to repair it. She applies tape to the puncture in the boat through which water had been leaking. After that, she tries to use a pipe to remove all the water inside the boat. Despite the difficulty, she fixes the boat's sail, attaching a new one. After completing all the tasks, Tami is very pleased because now she will be able to reach Richard. Slowly she approached the little boat, and we see Richard floating in the water, somehow holding on to that little boat. She tied a rope around her waist and swam to her mate. Tami is overjoyed to see Richard alive, but Richard's condition was very dire. Somehow, Tami manages to bring Richard onto their boat with the help of the rope. As Richard has a deep injury on his leg, Tami bandages Richard's leg. Not only that, Richard's ribs were also broken. After checking the map, Tami and Richard realize that they have arrived at an unknown place where no other ships travel in that direction. The nearest land seems to be so far away that they might not survive the journey. Richard reassures Tami. Considering all directions, they understand that if they start now, they can reach San Diego in 25 days. Moreover, if they move slightly to the left from their current location, they could also reach an island in Hawaii. Since the route to the island in Hawaii has strong winds and waves, they anticipate reaching there much faster compared to San Diego. The matter of finding Richard brings a different kind of courage to Tami. After that, she goes inside the boat and collects all the food and drinking water, but the quantities were very limited. Due to Richard's illness, Tami has to take on the role of the driver. Every day, bit by bit, Tami tries to move their boat forward, but at one point, they notice more problems with their boat. The old sail of their boat is stuck under the boat, preventing them from moving at the right speed. Tami tries to dislodge it using her maximum strength. On the other hand, it is evident that Richard is becoming physically weaker day by day, and their issues with food are worsening. Richard advises that to survive, they need to intake more protein in their bodies, as they are not getting the right nutrition, and the best source of protein can be found in seafood. Therefore, they must eat seafood. Tami is a vegetarian and she did not consume fish or meat. Initially, she is reluctant to catch fish. However, thinking about Richard's health, she attempts to catch fish, but she fails, as she has never caught fish before. Fortunately, at that time, heavy rain begins in the sea, and although their water supply was somewhat depleted, it gets replenished. Now, one might question why they are facing a water shortage when they are in the middle of the sea. For those who have some knowledge about the sea, they knows very well, although there is plenty of water in the sea, it cannot be directly consumed. This is because the water in the sea is intensely saline, and this is the remarkable reality that despite being surrounded by water, they had to rely on rainfall for their drinking water needs. So, this way, 18 days pass. Afterwards, it becomes apparent that Tami is singing to herself. Gradually, they share and divide the food between themselves. They spend time together. Both of them were trying not to break mentally, because we know that if you break mentally during tough times or in a crisis, you can never emerge from those difficult times or crises. In this way, after spending 29 days like this, Tami sees a ship. She continues to call for help, but the ship departs without noticing them. However, it turns out that she didn't see any ship, it was entirely Tami's imagination. She was under the illusion that there was a large ship there. They both gradually became sicker, yet they were happy, because they believed that slowly but surely they would reach their destination. At one point, Tami discusses her family's joys and sorrows with Richard. Then we come to know that Tami's childhood was not as normal as other children. She has been hiding a lot of pain in her mind since childhood. From a young age, whenever she faced any problem, she would go to the washroom and start thinking in her mind that she exists in a different world. Actually, she tried to reject reality. And this is where we can witness a surprising turn of event. Here, it is revealed that all this time, while believed she was spending time with Richard on middle of the ocean, Richard existed only in her imagination. In reality, Richard had submerged into the depths of the ocean on that fateful stormy night, and he never returned. Had created a fictional world to provide herself solace, just as she used to do in her childhood. However, after all this time, she has come to accept that truth. Actually, when someone deeply in love goes away forever, it's often hard for anyone to accept that the person they love has moved away from them. No matter how harsh reality is, everyone has to accept this reality. Exactly, Tami has eventually come to terms with the fact that Richard exists solely in her imagination. We can see that Tami has gradually learned to live alone. She has adapted to living in isolation, even acquiring new skills such as catching fish. The circumstances have brought about a complete transformation in her. That's an interesting turn of events. Suddenly, another bird appears near Tami's boat. This time, there is no fear or anxiety, rather, it brings good news. In reality, after enduring the harrowing 41 days of survival, Tami spots a ship. The people on the ship assist her, providing sustenance and rescuing her from the challenging ordeal. Tami ties her boat to the ship and makes her way back to the shore. Tami returns to her normal life after facing the terrifying challenges of the sea alone for 41 days. The solitary struggle in the treacherous sea finally comes to an end, and Tami is back to her familiar and comforting life. Afterwards, she goes on Richard's boat, her favorite person. All the good moments spent with Richard remain in her memory, and the movie ends right here. Even though the movie concludes here, Tami doesn't stop her sea journey. Despite experiencing such a significant accident, she goes back into the sea once again. This incident, which sounded so incredible in the movie, this incident actually happened in 1983 and the true and harrowing story of Tami Oldham and Richard Sharp. So friends, let me know how you liked today's video by commenting. And if you enjoyed the video, whether you choose to subscribe or not, just hit the like button, and feel free to share it with your friends as well.